Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is a very good friend, Greg Foss. He is an executive director at Validus Power Corp, and he also has decades of experience in high yield credit trading as a portfolio manager. Greg, welcome back.
It's great to be here, Ivan. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you down coming to Wall Street Silver. A huge question out there from our community is, what the heck is happening with gold and silver? What are you seeing? What is driving the price right now?
I need to flip that over to you guys. I own both, okay? But I have never been an expert in gold or silver trading, okay? I own both of them as insurance, much like I own Bitcoin as insurance on the Fiat Ponzi.
Mhm.
But as far as the trading and correlation trading with interest rates and Bank of Canada doesn't matter, but Fed rate policy and
Right.
inflation expectations, I'm no expert. All I know is they are both hard assets that are better than fiat money. So I own both silver, gold, not as much as I own Bitcoin, but I own them as protection against fiat debasing, which is programmatic, right? Fiat
Yeah.
is 100% certain to debase. And so you need to own hard assets. I don't really care too much in the short run how it trades, but in the
Mhm.
long run, I know it's a winning trade.
Absolutely, Greg. You nailed it. And looking at what's happening in the economy with the banking crisis that happened recently with those 3, 4 banks blowing up, and can they spread to other sectors like commercial banking, or what are you seeing right now with this banking crisis that's happening?
Well, let's be clear. First of all, banks are ubiquitous. The business model for banking is the same everywhere. And
Mm,
essentially what it is huge leverage applied to an equity capital base of approximately, well, I won't say approximately, over 25 times, and in some cases as high as 40 times leverage to the equity capital base. Now,
wow.
your equity capital base is your risk absorbing capital to protect against loan losses, to protect against trading losses, to protect against mark to market losses on something like a US Treasury bond holding. So, of the banks that failed, they did not have any different type of business model than the big money center banks.
Right.
Bank of America, Royal Bank of Canada, they all have the same business model, which leverages their equity capital base 20 over 20 times. And in the
Wow.
case of European banks, sometimes many times higher that. Well, what that means, Ivan, just to make it as simple as possible for your listeners, for every $100 loan that a bank makes or an investment in a US Treasury bond, which is an asset like a loan,
Right.
they only hold $4 of
No
equity
way.
capital. Oh, yeah, that's the leverage in the banking system. They only hold $4.
Jesus.
The other $96 is depositors' money and subordinate debt. So if the price of that loan falls by more than 4%, 4 cents on the dollar, or $4 on a $100 loan,
Right.
your equity capital base is vaporized. You're starting to chew into depositors' money. And
Wow.
I have traded credit for my entire life. I will promise you that bonds and loans and structured debt frequently trade in price increments or move in prices far more than $4
Oh,
or
so
4% of parity,
wow.
which is to say, commercial banking is frequently insolvent. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this on your past podcast about when I
Yeah, you
started
have.
working for. Okay, so that's the key. It always happens. Bonds and debt instruments always fall by more than the equity capital base on a mark to market basis. The key is for a bank, we don't have to market to market. We're special. And over time, all these things will skate themselves on side. Baloney. Okay. 100% bull crap. But the fiat banking Ponzi, or the fiat Ponzi, the transfer mechanism in the fiat Ponzi is commercial banks. So,
Right.
what are some of the problems that I see in commercial banks? First of all, Bank of America itself is sitting on over $100 billion of US Treasury losses on a mark to market basis. Okay.
Jeez.
100 billion.
Jeez.
But the big boogeyman under the bed is commercial real estate. And none of these. So in the USA, non-recourse lending in real estate is much more commonplace than in Canada. In Canada, as you know, you take out a mortgage on your home, you secure it with the value of your home, but you also secure it with a personal guarantee. In
Right.
the United States, a mortgage is non-recourse. When the house prices go offside, they just give the keys back to the bank. They said, "Oh, thank you,
Wow.
Mr. Bank." So all of this is different risks that are built up in the system. Commercial real estate is absolutely a dog's breakfast in the United States right now. So many Class A buildings are not marked at their right price, and the trading prices of the buildings are frequently far below the debt outstanding. Even Brookfield Property Management, one of Canada's biggest real estate investors, has defaulted on 2 office buildings in the Los Angeles area, right? So,
Jeez.
I mean, commercial real estate is the boogeyman. But the real problem with commercial banking is the fact that it's so highly levered. And most people are like, well, don't worry. Those banks are too big to fail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are too big to fail, Ivan. How do they rescue those banks?
Bail
Print
out.
more money,
Yeah.
quantitative easing infinity. That's why we own gold and silver. And my personal favorite, and I wore a special shirt for you
Yeah,
today,
where did you get that shirt? I love it.
Bitcoin. This shirt is, I can't remember. I got it at a Bitcoin conference. I think it
Nice.
Unconfiscatable, which is a Las Vegas Bitcoin conference put on by a friend of mine, Tone Vase. But it basically shows the progression of humanity,
Humans, yeah, going
and then
digital.
to a QR code to switch to send money. And look, I love everything you do. You're an
Thank
amazing
you.
marketer. I love your stories. You tend to focus on the topic du jour, but you get it. Like,
Mhm.
you get hard assets, and so I'm happy, but too many people don't. They don't understand the necessity of holding your value in a hard asset. Because in Canada, everyone likes to say, I've made so much money on my house. No, sir, you have not.
It's
It's
imaginary.
just that the value of your house has stayed the same, but the purchasing unit of account, the fiat dollar, has
Just went
declined
down.
so much that it takes more of those same dollars to buy the same value, or the
Jeez.
value in
Yeah,
a
yeah, the
house.
value house. Wow, that's
Yeah.
actually crazy. And you said earlier that like if they start dropping, then they have to use depositors' money.
Well,
Uh
that's it. They don't use it, but what happens is the bank becomes insolvent. There's no equity capital base. So
right.
it happens regularly. I mentioned I got my start in the 1980s.
Hmm.
Latin American debt at the Royal Bank of Canada, insolvent. Royal Bank of Canada, Canada's largest bank, was insolvent. But that
Wow.
repeated itself with long-term capital management 10 years later. Then it repeated itself with the great financial crisis in 2008, 2009. And then it repeated itself in the COVID crisis. Like, it's something that people should be surprised about. It is just the fact that the asset values on the bank's books, which are loans and debt, US Treasury debt or Canadian Treasury bonds,
Right.
they fall in value by more than 4% frequently. And when that happens, the banks, on a mark-to-market basis, needs to be very clear, would
Hmm.
be insolvent. Now, because banks don't have to mark their books to market, imagine being a trader, Ivan, and you don't have to mark your book to market. Oh, no, boss. Everything's fine.
Nothing,
I
nothing to
promise
see.
this is going to skate itself back on side. Don't mark me to market and pay me my
It's
bonus
just
that I
crazy.
expect. Okay, that's banking. It's absolutely nuts, but that's why we always get into the problems we get into.
Absolutely. And Greg, what happens, like, let's say Canadians or Americans just wake up one day and say, you know what, I need to get everything out the bank. And what happens if there's like a massive bank run in North America? Yeah, then the banks
Look,
are
I
screwed.
mean, I can't tell you enough how much I love the beauty and technology behind Bitcoin.
Mhm.
It's the same concept as owning gold and silver coins, which I do in a safe in my house. Don't come rob me. In a safe in my house, I own gold and silver coins. I also own gold and silver stocks. When I say stocks, like, I like GDX and all those, GDXJ, but
Mhm.
Bitcoin is better than all of them. Okay. And it's because there's no intermediary. You don't have counterparty risk. You can store your value on essentially a seed phrase in your head that you can take anywhere in the world. Try transferring my my silver coins and gold coins across a border. I mean, I know I can do it, but it's
Yeah.
not as comfortable as carrying a seed phrase in your head, you know?
Do
So
you,
all of, go ahead.
sorry about cutting off. Do you ever worry about, like, let's say governments or banks around the world actually regulate the payment tellers, not like Bitcoin itself, but how to pay for Bitcoin and all, you know what I mean? Do you
Yeah,
ever get scared of it?
It's called choke point, and
Right.
we are currently experiencing some now, the on ramps and off ramps. But Bitcoiners are very ingenious people. There's so many ways of getting around those choke points. But when they do that,
Right.
much like they did during the trucker convoy in
Yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
I think it makes the appeal of a non-confiscatable, non-hackable, non censor or censorship resistant technology like Bitcoin that much more valuable. So I think it enhances the value. And people see that. Like, you know, I was down in Miami and the presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., was speaking, and he said, what orange pilled him, that's an expression for Bitcoin. What got him into Bitcoin was the Canadian trucker protest when they froze the bank accounts of
Yeah, that
Canadians.
was crazy.
When I witnessed this cataclysm, this devastating use of government repression, I realized for the first time how free money is as important to freedom as free expression. And
so, I mean, they can try to do this stuff. And when I say they, not everybody in Canadian government supported the fact that they froze bank accounts,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's right.
they did. They did.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely crazy what happened with the Canadian truckers. So that's why, of course, us in the silver community, we moved away from try to move away from fiat, try to get some silver and
Yes.
gold. You said that you do some gold stocks. Do you look at any like royalty companies or just straight gold or mining companies or no?
Yeah, again, I do it. So I've owned individual gold stocks in the past. Believe it or
Hmm.
not, I traded a lot of high yield debt of gold companies because a
Oh,
lot of
really?
gold companies, one that I'll throw out, I am gold. Fair IMG, ticker IMG,
Hmm.
big Canadian gold play. Had a lot of high yield debt in my career, and I traded that all the time. New Gold, another Canadian gold company that had high yield debt. So I needed to know these credits. I needed to understand them.
Really?
Currently, though, I mostly play with the indices. So as I said, GDX, GDXJ, the
Right.
silver, same thing with the silver miners. But understand that I own them conceptually for the hard money attributes
Right.
that they bring to the table.
Absolutely. Well, it's been such a huge pleasure having you down, Greg. Before you leave, though, please give our audience like your last words or maybe a message to them before you leave.
Well, look, I'm 60 years old. I turned 60
No,
in a
you're
couple.
not. You don't look
Yeah,
60.
I appreciate that. I turned 60 in a couple of months, less than 2 months. And I've been doing this a long time. And I'm actually very scared for the world
Yeah.
because of the number of people that don't understand the Fiat Ponzi and everything that's happening in the Fiat Ponzi. And you need to protect yourself. You need to protect yourself with hard assets. We've talked about the hard assets. I
Yeah.
believe everybody needs to own some Bitcoin. And my job, as we're going to become more friendly offline, Ivan, is to convince you of the benefits of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Not because I want you to sell silver to buy Bitcoin. No, I do not want you to sell
No,
silver to
never.
buy Bitcoin. But I do want you to sell stock in soft companies.
Right.
Or more importantly, I want you to sell bonds. If you own any bonds, and I don't
Yeah, get rid of
anticipate
them.
you do, but anybody who does, get rid of your bonds or at least sell some of your bonds and transfer it to the hard money side of the spectrum. And
Agreed.
that includes Bitcoin. So I'm a hard money advocate. I'm a sound money advocate, not for me. I'm 60. I'm going to be just fine. It's for my kids and
Right.
for my kids' kids. Okay. So thank you for listening. We need to win this battle because the people in government I have a hint for you, Canada. Budgets do not balance themselves, Mr. Trudeau. And I might have said this on your last show, but I have to say it again. If he was the CEO of any publicly traded company and made such a silly statement that a budget would balance itself, he would have been fired on the spot, because budgets do not balance themselves. So protect yourself against childish statements and childish money management like that. You need to own hard assets.
Thank you so much, Greg. That was a beautiful message. And then hope to talk to you soon as the market develops. Love to have you back.
Thank you for having me, my friend.